This is the You Can Learn Chinese podcast. For everyone who's trying to learn Chinese or reaching for the next level, you came to the right place. I am your host, Jared Turner, and you've got to go for your dreams no matter what other people say. For instance, people told Beethoven that he would never be a musician because he was deaf. But did he listen? My co-host is John Passon, and he told me that if he owned a bookstore, he'd make it very, very tricky to find the mystery section. Let's get to it.
My name is Freddy Buechel. I am a student at CU Boulder, and I film on my Instagram account at the Bao Law. I film videos in Chinese for fun. That's me.
All right, Freddy, why did you start learning Chinese?
Well, I started learning Chinese actually at a young age. When I was younger, my family moved us over to Singapore, and I got stuck in an elementary school there that was taught in English, but we had Chinese class every day.
So how old were you at this point?
So I was about probably 10 years old when we moved over.
Okay. I can imagine that was a little bit difficult. I mean, I know there's a lot of stories, people when they're really young, like 5, 3, whatever, they go over, but 10, what was that like?
10, for me, it really wasn't that bad. I left halfway through 5th grade. So I moved out of Florida and I came in like second semester, 5th grade. And to be honest, I just picked up where I left off. And the school I went to, it's the Singapore American School. So it's mostly expats.
It was an international school then. Okay.
International school, mostly expats.
So being 10, I guess that wasn't the biggest an issue, but what was that like then? I mean, they just threw you into a class? Were they like everyone like your same grade, or was it kind of mixed up? What was that like?
Everyone same grade. It was weird at first. You move, like your entire life's gone. You're like, wow, new place, new country, new laws. Like I couldn't chew gum. Was really? One for yeah. You actually get a fine in Singapore for chewing gum or spitting it on the streets, like $500. Though the classes, they start speaking this foreign language at you, and most of the kids that are in your class, they already know Chinese, right? Because they've been there for at least half a year, if not 3 or 4 years. You sit there, you're like, what is going on? Like foreign language, foreign sounds, foreign characters, You really felt like you were in kind of a movie almost.
Really?
Because, you just had no idea. And it was this whole new world. I mean, you see it on TV, like China and all these foreign countries. But when it's up front in your face and they're teaching it to you like you're supposed to know what's going on, it's such a different experience.
Well, how long do you think it took you before something started clicking and you started making sense to you?
Yeah, see, that first year, I don't think it made very much sense for the first 6 months because I came in halfway through, but they placed me in the same class twice. So when I moved to 6th grade, then I started to actually kind of pick up what was going on. Only basics, obviously.
Really?
But after that year, I moved to Taiwan.
Oh, okay.
I went from Singapore to Taiwan, and in Singapore, they taught us simplified characters, but in Taiwan, they taught us traditional.
I imagine for you, it felt like totally different, right?
For me, it felt totally different. Not that there isn't similarity. I think I was just so overwhelmed that everything started to look. So my character writing skills didn't improve very much that year, but...
Oh, so they had you writing. They had you handwriting in Singapore, I guess, and in Taiwan, right?
Yeah. Not in Singapore, but in Taiwan, they had us handwriting. And
oh, man.
I didn't learn very much that way. But when I went outside or when I talked to my friends in that school, they really helped me. Unlike Singapore, the Taiwanese school that I went to, also an international school, but they all spoke Chinese and they had all been there since they were like 5 or 6. And it was this tight-knit community of Taiwanese kids. And maybe there was 4 or 5 or 6 of us from America.
I imagine a lot more immersion.
For sure. I'd walk down the street every day and I'd get myself some bubble tea, some zhenzu naicha. And the way that I learned how to buy things was by reciting a line my best friend had taught me at the time. He was like, this is what you do. You're going to go down to this bubble tea shop and you're going to say, 我要买一杯珍珠奶茶，微冰微糖. and that's what you're going to get.
Nice, nice.
And I was like, okay. And slowly but surely, I picked up on what every single one of those words meant, because when he told me that, I had no idea. I think that that was my first moment where I knew that I really wanted to learn Chinese, because the smiles on people's faces when you communicate with them in their own language is priceless. And people want to be able to connect. When you create that opportunity, it allows you so much more freedom to be able to see who they are. And that's really where it started for me.
Well, that's really neat. And, that's one thing I always do love about Chinese people, Taiwanese, is that you speak even a little bit of Chinese and they're just so encouraging and they're so impressed. That's always motivating.
Exactly. But they encourage you. And that encouragement is something that we don't actually see in America. When people come here and they have accents or they struggle to speak to us, we kind of always give them a hard time. But you go over there and you try to speak and engage and be upfront with people, they love you all the more for it.
So how long were you then in Taiwan? And it sounds like this was a period where your Chinese really started to get some traction.
So that's funny, actually. I was only in Taiwan for 1 year, and then I moved back to Singapore, and I stayed there another 2 years. So I did 8th and 9th grade in Singapore. I actually moved back to New York City for a year. I think it was my sophomore year. And then my junior year of high school, during COVID, I actually moved back to Taiwan, and I lived with that buddy of mine that told me about the bubble tea in 7th grade. I called him up on the phone and I was like, hey, dude, I don't know where to go. My school's locked down, and I'd always been so close with him. I kept up with him. And that family actually let me live at their house for about half a year until my mom came and lived with me in Taiwan for the rest of it.
And I assume you're probably like doing high school online. Everything was going online then, right?
Everything was online. But then when I went to Taiwan, that was the reason. It wasn't online because COVID actually hadn't hit there yet.
Well, I want to hear about this because you mentioned something about when you first went there to Taiwan, how you ordered bubble tea and people started understanding you. You decided that's when I decided I really wanted to learn Chinese. And I want to focus on this a little bit more because I lived in China for many years. And I know lots of kids who may be in similar shoes as you, right? They're in their international school and they're taking a Chinese class, but I've also known a lot of kids that don't really progress and maybe as far as they could or should. So what was different about this for you during this period?
So that's actually a really good point you just made. For me, I was one of those kids. I underperformed in my language class. I always kind of put it off. And I was like, I'll do it. I love speaking to people, don't get me wrong, but you put me in that class environment, I didn't truly thrive there. And I moved a lot, right? So I went to 5 high schools in 4 years. So for me, you could say that language or school was never my focus. It was always like, I had to get through.
And that's hard too, just that changing, right? As a teen, that's a difficult thing to be moving that much.
Yeah, you struggle. The education takes a backseat, right? But I always knew I wanted to do it. So when I got to college, I started taking Chinese and Russian. And eventually I realized that I wanted to solely focus on the Chinese. And so I took a semester abroad in Shanghai. I went to ECNU for a semester.
East China Normal University.
Yeah, East China Normal University. And that truly is where I realized how much work I needed to put in and how much more there was to learn, And I think when you mention the international student perspective, we always have this idea in the back of our heads. We're like, oh, we know it. We've been taking it since we were kids. Like you hear it every day. But when you look from the lens of a Chinese learner and someone who truly wants to master the language, just picking up on those 1 or 2 class phrases and your grammar structures, it isn't enough. And when you realize you need to make that commitment, that's when my priorities changed.
Well, tell me a little bit more about this. You went to university and that's where you decided, okay, I really want to study, Chinese, Russian, you threw that in there too. Yeah. But you could have easily just gone to college and be like, no, I'm going to go study, I don't know, business or engineering or whatever, right? Why did you even at that point say, I want to study a language?
Well, My first semester in college, I had this idea. I was like, I want to do international affairs. I'm going to parlay this into some business or idea that's going to take me back abroad. And so I chose international affairs. I did a semester and I realized that there's a difference between being educated in the affairs and being able to communicate on matters yourself. If you want to be the driving force of change, of your own business, of whatever it is that you want to do, you actually have to pursue the method in which you can communicate that. So for me, I was like, Chinese is one of the most spoken languages on the planet. It is one of the biggest business languages on the planet. And all of these things that I am talking about doing in the future, it will never happen if I have a basic degree. And I don't mean to put down international affairs. It's a great program and I still take classes in there, but it will never happen for me unless I have something that allows me to rise above. And for me, I mean, I saw it my whole life. It's when you can communicate to people on an interpersonal level and show awareness of their culture and their customs, that's when you can make the magic happen. So that's why I chose Chinese.
So I'm seeing something here. That decision and that perspective is largely a result of your personal experiences in living in different countries. Would that be accurate?
Yeah.
I want to go back to Huashida, right? Oh, yeah. ECNU, it's Huashida, right?
Yeah, Huashida.
Yeah, I know it's right there in Shanghai. It's right off of Zhongshangbeilu and Jinshajianglu, right there. Yeah.
是的.
Yeah. Okay. I lived just a few blocks north of the university at one point in Shanghai. So anyway, I know the area.
Really?
So yeah, what was it about it that then? You're going to the study abroad and you're like, oh man, I got a lot of work to do. I probably know the answer, right? It's just, that's a humbling experience sometimes. Really going in and trying to use your Chinese in the wild, right?
So humbling, because as soon as you say that first word in Chinese, you open the floodgates, right? Then you get this amalgam of words that you may understand one by one, but when people just start speaking, you have no idea what they're saying. And you pick up bits and pieces and you're like, oh, maybe this is what this person said. But wait, what tone is that? Because he could have said something way different. And in that moment, it was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to have to change something because, before I went to Shanghai, I'd always tell people, they'd be like, oh, so you're fluent in Chinese. And it was like, yeah, like I can speak Chinese. Like I'm pretty good at Chinese. I went there and I'd take a step back.
Yeah,
I really did.
I'll call fluent the F word. It's a very relative term.
Yes, I would agree with that. I think fluency is something you can chase, but it's extremely hard to achieve.
So I usually like to talk in terms of proficiency, but yeah, I totally understand it. In the end, you realize your Chinese is just okay at best, right?
At best. It's a great way to put it. Yeah. Out of everything that I've done for myself educationally in my whole life, I would say that experience alone taught me more than anything else.
How so?
I learned how to study. When you go for one of these intensive learning programs, you're in class from 9 to 12. You have an hour lunch break, and then you go back in for a one-on-one hour-long tutoring session. So you're in class about 4 hours a day, every day, and then you have like 3.5 hours of homework, right? So you're doing about 7 hours of studying of the language per day. And you're keeping up, you're doing tests, you're pushing yourself to this high extent. But the truth is that most of your learning didn't even occur inside of the classroom. And sure, you can read and recite in the classroom and you can write down notes when you're doing homework. But the part that really matters is when you leave the school and when you leave your home and you go out and you talk to people. And for me, that was a gym that I found about a mile down the road from the school. And
in Zhongshan Park?
And Zhongshan, near, close, yeah.
Okay. John, he lives in Zhongshan Park still.
That's really cool. And so I walk into this gym one day and there's a bunch of kids my age. And first day I get there, I can't say a single word to them. I've been learning Chinese for since I was 10, and I'm lost. That in its own was humbling, but they accepted me and they would say, oh, this is this and this is this. And we would work together to find out what we were saying every single day to each other. And so I learned all this terminology and everyday casual speech, which is something that I feel like you lack in a formal Chinese education. And then one day, there was this man, his name is Jiang Hang. Jiang Hang is a WBO world champion boxer in 2008. Wow. I didn't know this at the time. One day I'm in the gym, I'm lifting some weights, and he comes up to me and he tells me, I need you to punch this man in the face. I'm like, whoa, hold on. You're asking me to punch this 60-year-old dude. Why? Like, I don't want to get arrested. I'm here on a student visa. Like, I don't, this is nerve-wracking slightly. Eventually, with some convincing and some promising and being, it's okay. I step in the ring. And
so this is the boxing ring. You're in a boxing ring with him?
Yeah, I step in this boxing ring. It's in the corner of this like old abandoned gym. I start punching this old guy. And, I'm going back and forth. He's not hitting me back. Like, he was just trying to like learn how to, I guess, block and dodge. And
were you wearing boxing gloves or?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And at the end, I walk up to Jiang Hang and I ask him, I'm like, 我要你教我拳击. Like, I need to learn. If you're going to come up to me and tell me to go punch some random guy, then you got to teach me how to box. At the time, that was all I knew how to say, right? I couldn't be specific. I was just like, teach me boxing. So every day after class, I would be in that gym, either talking to my friends that I had just made or getting coached in boxing. And in that experience, being in the wild, you pick up so much faster. And it drove me to want to connect more. Once you can get that little spark going with other people and you just want to learn more and more and more about them, and you want to be able to communicate on a higher level and have this almost open conversation, and you can't, it is the biggest driving factor to want to learn.
I'm hearing from you, it sounds like you just really wanted to connect with all those people around you. And that was a real driving, motivating force for you.
No matter what country you're from, what language you speak, you start realizing that everyone is, not everybody, but like for the most part, the people that you talk to are kind, they're individuals, they have their own lives, they're not statistics, they're not people that you can't ever speak to. Like, all of these people are tangible, and you can have some of the best relationships in your life with people that you may not even be able to speak to right now if you learn a new language.
Yeah. Language allows us to kind of connect with that common humanity. It's like recognizing we're all humans, we're all people, right?
I agree.
How long were you there in Shanghai? Was it just for a semester?
In Shanghai, I was there. I was there for 9 weeks, so a semester. I lived with a host family. I got their old bedroom, and they had a son who's maybe 25, and the son would come in like once or twice a week. He lived away from home, but I got to be a part of this whole family. I ate breakfast with this family. I ate dinner with this family. Every day you speak in Chinese, you learn new things, and you learn all the names of the vegetables, and they point out at your bowl and they're like, this is what's in the bowl. And eventually you got to start picking it up. Being able to do that was the most amazing experience of my entire life. It really was.
So maybe you could talk about that a little bit, because you talked about you've been in Singapore and Taiwan, but you were in international schools. And not to say you didn't interact locally, but I know it's very different when you're now living with a host family. What were some of those contrasts or things that maybe you learned where you feel like you wouldn't have learned otherwise?
I think that being a part of the local community instead of being a part of an international community gives you a different way of looking at things. Because most of the time when you live within the international community, it's people that understand your life, right? And when you go into this homestay environment and this school environment where you are just immersed in their culture and their way of thinking, it isn't about you anymore. It's just, okay, I'm with this family and this family has values, and you're eating breakfast and dinner with your family every single day. And you go out into the neighborhoods and people start to get to know you. And like there was a baozi shop right outside of the apartment complex I lived in. And I would go there every morning before class. And one lady, she knew my order. I didn't even have to say anything. I still wanted to say something because I wanted to speak, but you just get involved in the way of thinking, you know? I did not see as much of that when I just identified as this international student in Singapore or Taiwan. And I think the different level is the immersion. And how do I say this? It's not about you. It's connecting to the whole.
Yeah.
And I'd say there's a lot to be learned from that. I think that's one of the reasons I'm really grateful for all of it.
That's awesome. You're at the University of Colorado Boulder right now. And so this is, you're still in the thick of it, right? You're still in the midst of your studies, right? So this story is still going. All of our stories, of course, is still going. When you came back, it sounds like this whole trip was like really formative for you. But how has that really changed your focus in your studies since you've been back?
Before I went on that study abroad program, I was actually more focused on Russian. I was trying to dual major in Russian and Chinese language. So I spent the majority of my time, being that I already spoke some Chinese, right? I spent the majority of my time on Russian. And I realized as I went over there that, yes, the reason I did both was because I have a passion for language, but I would rather be excellent at Chinese than mediocre at both. I know that there are some people that have the ability to learn multiple languages at once very well. But for me, I realized that one day I will learn Russian. But for right now, the goal is to become excellent at Chinese.
Yeah, I understand. Well, tell me a little bit about how you got started making some of these videos on Instagram, because I got to be honest, that's how I first came across you. My son, Miles, he sent me with a video, "Ni hao, pengyomen." So Freddy's videos, he lifts weights. He looks pretty awesome with his shirt off. He's a member of the Burly Man Society, right? And and he's out there, yelling motivational something in Chinese, and it's pretty awesome. It's hilarious.
That's pretty fun. I would say that personally, I've always wanted to do social media. I actually used to run like a fitness account way back when, and I thought, oh, this is going to be how I, make it, and this is what I'm going to do. My mind really wasn't in it. I didn't really like what I was putting out. It felt like I was conforming to a genre in which I couldn't really be myself, or as much of myself as I wanted to be. And that prompted a lot of deep thinking and about who I was. I had to sit down and be like, okay, if I want to do content, how do I want to do it? This was 6 months ago. I remembered something that I did in China. My boxing coach had never really remembered my name. And so he would always call me Paul.
Paul, okay.
Yeah,
Freddy,
just
Paul,
would always call me Paul. So it'd be like Bao Luo. So he'd call me Bao Luo because it's the closest thing to Paul.
Oh, okay.
So he himself used to make Douyin videos, and he'd film me in our training sessions, and he'd be like, 加油，保罗，越来越好。And like, American. And one day I was taking like an excursion to the Great Wall of China, and he tells me before I go, he's like, you know what you have to do? You have to record a video of yourself on the Great Wall with one of the rice hats, and you have to be like, 我喜欢拳击，我操，哥们儿。Just like say random Chinese words because he's trying to drive engagement on his page.
With your shirt off?
Oh, no, I had my shirt off. I wasn't risking that on the Great Wall. But Most of the videos of me on his page, I actually do have my shirt off, which is funny now that I think about it, because I didn't plan that. But I sent that to him and he was laughing so hard. And I remembered that recently. And I was like, wait, what if I just do the same thing that I sent him? And it's like this guy who's speaking Chinese in crazy places doing what he wants to do. Because you start to realize, like, when you want to do something, the only person that's going to be able to make that happen is you, right? Like, I went to China, and the only reason that happened is because I made it happen. And I love to travel. So when I go places, I go and do things that I may never get to do again, because I know that I have this time that I need to spend wisely. And I had been doing this without recording my life or, I guess, posting it online. And I've been doing this for so long. And so I was like, wait, I can be the guy that's like going places, encouraging people to do things, and being a little bit insane, definitely a little bit insane. On social media. But if I can do this and encourage people to go out and, you know, be something, then it's fun. Because I mean, like, seriously, I'm a Caucasian American who's in the woods screaming Chinese. It's a little bit like, it's a lot. And I know it's a lot, but
I mean, that's kind of fun because you're in like these rustic, you know, outdoorsy mountaintops, you know, things like that.
Basis behind it is like, go outside and live your life. If I can be who I am right now doing this, go do whatever you want to do. Like, I thought I was going to get a lot of, like, frankly, crap from like my friends, my family, and, you know, people around me. I thought it was going to be like, oh, like, what are you doing? And it's like, well, it's just fun. And why do I have to care if I'm just going out and having fun? And I guess that's kind of why I started doing it, is because I get to have a digital record of the places that I go and the things that I see. I get to have fun while doing it, and I get to make people laugh. Those are all things I like.
No, I think it's great. You know, you're like, "Jiao Pokemon," or you're just like yelling and screaming in Chinese and just being like trying to be motivated. You're like the Chinese motivational inspiration guy.
That's what I tried to be. Yeah.
That's hilarious. Any interesting stories you have going around? I don't even want you're like in Times Square, New York, but any funny experiences you had doing that?
Yeah, Times Square, New York. See, that was funny. I went back home over this summer, and I told my dad, I'm like, dude, so we're gonna go to Times Square. I'm gonna take my shirt off in front of 10,000 people, and I'm gonna start screaming in Chinese. And you're going to have to sit there and watch me do this. And I'm probably not going to get it in one take. So you're going to have to sit there and watch as a bunch of people walk by you, and they're looking at me and they're thinking, this dude's crazy. And
they're not entirely wrong, right?
They're not entirely wrong. No, they're really not. And that was actually the first time I'd ever done one in like public. So,
oh, okay. Yeah.
Most of my stuff is like me in nature. I mean, I live in Colorado, right?
Yeah.
So the fun part for me is like, I'm going to get out there. I'm going to go to the Black Canyon of the Gunnison. I'm going to sleep in the back of my car, wait for the sun to come up, go out and explore. That's usually what I do. I would say people looked at me pretty funny for that one. But now it's kind of interesting because I'll get stopped on the street and people will be like, "Oh, you're that screaming Chinese dude." And I'm like, "Yeah,
yes, I am.
Chinese dude. That's me."
That's awesome. And I'm out here in the West too. I'm in Utah, right? So I mean, we got all the fun outdoorsy places so close by.
I haven't been to Utah yet, but I'm actually going there I'm going to Salt Lake for a wedding on October 10th. So that's going to be fun.
All right, man. You're going to have to do some hikes.
Exactly.
I'm expecting to see some videos from Utah popping up on your feed pretty soon.
It will be there for sure.
Well, Freddy, what advice would you give to someone who is learning Chinese right now?
I would say start small. There is no reason that you have to be fluent in a month, in a year, or even 2. The only way that you stick with something of this magnitude is by being able to enjoy it every single day that you do it. And if you push yourself past a limit that you aren't comfortable with, it becomes very tedious. And personally, learning this language for so long, I've fallen in love with it. And the way that I keep falling farther in love with it is by making it fun. And I mean, for example, Instagram page, I go and scream, I do this. That's practice for me. Do something that makes you happy to learn Chinese. Learn Chinese in the way that stimulates you. For some people, that is reading the textbook. For some people, that's talking. For some people, it's listening. But take it slow and focus on what stimulates you the most.
Oh, I appreciate that. That's really good advice. Well, Freddy, if people want to find out more about you or see your videos, where can they go?
Well, they can find me at The Bao Law on Instagram. And that currently is the only place where I have a social media presence.
Well, we'll go ahead and put a link in the show notes here so you can go check that out and see some of your awesome videos and upcoming stuff from Utah, I'm sure.
Exactly.
Well, Freddy, hey, thanks so much for taking the time. This has been great hearing your story, and I appreciate you sharing all these experiences with all of us.
I appreciate it very much. Thank you for having me on.
Thanks for listening to the You Can Learn Chinese podcast. I'm Jared Turner, co-founder of Mandarin Companion, alongside my co-host John Pazin, co-founder of Mandarin Companion, founder of All Set Learning, the Chinese Grammar Wiki, and sinosplice.com. Got a Chinese learning story? We want to hear it. Head over to our website and apply to be featured on the show. If you like today's episode, hit that subscribe button, share it with a friend. It's the best way to help more Chinese learners find us. You can also leave us a review on iTunes. We love hearing from you. Or come connect with us at mandarincompanion.com or follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter for more tips, updates, and good times. Want a fun way to boost your Chinese? Grab a Mandarin Companion graded reader. Available on Amazon, Apple Books, Google Play, or wherever you get your books. Apologies to John Cena. We just ran out of time. The You Can Learn Chinese podcast is produced by me, Jared Turner, and is edited by Jasper Chua. And a special thanks to my co-host, the man, the myth, the legend, John Pasty. See you next time.